Welcome back, everyone, to Open Line. We're talking about the future of the Nashville Fairgrounds and also, of course, the soccer stadium. We have with us two people who do not want that soccer stadium built out there. There was Save Our Fairgrounds. Duane Dominy, who's the president, and Jim Roberts, an attorney with that organization. And we have some calls. So let's go to the phones. Let's go to David. Hello, David.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Yes. And let me say that before this program came on, before the Open Line program came on, I was watching a soccer game. I have watched every soccer game of the AAA Nashville LC and the First Tennessee Park.
Okay.
You know, I have watched every World Cup game that has ever been played for the past 20 years. What I don't understand is, what is this horror? What is this horror? The Nashville LC, they are scheduled to play a game at the end of February, and they are playing a team that is in the third year, and this team that is in its third year don't even have a stadium, and they are playing in a stadium they don't own.
So you're saying you're a soccer fan, but you want to know what the hurry is. Does that mean you don't want it built out there at the fairgrounds? You don't want it built there. Is that right?
No, the point is, those the cities that already had an MLS soccer team years before Nashville don't have a stadium yet.
Right.
They are playing in NFL stadiums.
Right.
So why is Nashville being pressured to hurriedly?
Okay, all right. So you hear what he's saying. He's a soccer fan. He's watched every game. He loves soccer. He says other teams don't have a stadium. Why is Nashville being pushed to have a stadium? I mean, I think it'd be better to have a stadium.
We have a very impressive stadium, seats 60,000 plus seats, and it was built to professional soccer standards. Mm-hmm. It's right over there on the river, and it's got Nissan on the side of it.
And not only is it built to MLS standards, it has separate locker rooms. So you would have the locker rooms for the Titans, and you would have locker rooms for MLS. They don't have to share locker rooms. And they built it that way because people came to the mayor at the time and said, do this, because we're an expanding city, we're a growing city. You know, let's make this a win-win for the people. And when we get that MLS team, we can play here. I mean, the Nissan Stadium is conveniently located across the river. There's ample parking, there's ample infrastructure, there's restaurants and hotels, and everything you would want near the stadium is there. At the fairgrounds, they're going to have to build it at the expense of the fairgrounds because there's nothing out at the fairgrounds to support a stadium. So I don't really blame MLS for wanting all these different buildings and hotel rooms and childcare and all this crazy stuff they want to put out there because there is no infrastructure. But just because they want it and they want to make $1 billion off of it, it's not really a good reason in my book. Let's have them play, as the gentleman said, have them play in the Nissan Stadium. It's going to be a big place. I mean, it's going to look a little empty. If they do well, then let's talk about building a stadium over there. That's where you want to build it. Mm-hmm. Build it next to the Titan Stadium.
MLS has said, and the owners have said, if it's not at the fairgrounds, the deal is dead. I believe that's my understanding of what they've said.
That's what they've said this time. Well, a week after the council voted on this bill, they did a story. Don Garber interviewed with Joey Garrison of the Tennessean and did a story about they always had a plan B, and had the fairgrounds not been approved, they would it would be a yellow flag but not a red flag. That's a soccer reference for those not familiar with that, but that's a yellow flag doesn't mean the game's over. That was his words, not ours. So for his claim this week that if they didn't build at the fairgrounds, the soccer deal's off, somewhere he was not truthful. Take your pick, which one, or any of them, I don't know. But one of those two statements are incongruent with the other.
Right.
And really, honestly, what proof do we really have that the MLS will leave? I mean, we don't know what the franchise agreement looks like. Maybe it doesn't say anything about a stadium, and maybe that was just certain people sort of making bold commitments that they had no authority to commit to. I want to see that franchise agreement. It's one of the things that we're trying to get in the litigation. We want to see what promises were made, because I think we're going to find out that there was never a promise of the fairgrounds. If anything, it was aspirational, it was hopeful. Well, guess what? You know, the people of Nashville come first. And that's the problem here, is the MLS wants to come first.
Not only that, on that issue, Miami moved their stadium location 4 times. MLS didn't threaten to take their franchise.
Okay.
In North Carolina, they play in their football stadium. Funny, they didn't take their franchise.
All right, let's go to Lily here on line 1. Hello, Lily.
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Okay. I applaud you all guys for stopping them dead in their tracks. Nashville, first of all, is already congested. We don't need another third stadium. And will I think, can they use also the baseball stadium to do soccer? And that's all I got for you.
What was the last part? What is that? Will
They said about the baseball stadium.
They also use the Sounds baseball stadium for soccer.
Okay, use the Sounds baseball
They are
stadium.
currently.
Right.
And, you know, they've allowed Greer Stadium to fall into disrepair intentionally. They could have absolutely used that facility to house professional soccer for a couple of years while they figured out what they were going to do. They could build the stadium there. It's a much better location. We've reached the point where it's almost an ego thing. Since they said they want to have it at the fairgrounds, then we're going to browbeat our mayor, we're going to browbeat the council, we're going to browbeat the citizens of Davidson County, we're going to threaten the citizens of Davidson County. But in the end, this is our town. And you don't just get to destroy our fairgrounds because you want a shiny stadium on the hill. Prove that you're good to Nashville. Prove that you're going to be an asset to this community before we spend $500 million on a stadium and get nothing in return. And that's one of the real problems with this. There's going to be a lot of money made, and Nashville's going to get almost none of it. And that's sad.
Talk about playing at the stadium. Our first caller said he was just at a soccer game at the ballpark, the Sounds ballpark. They're already playing there, and they're not filling it up.
Okay. All right, let's go to Paul. Hello, Paul.
Yes.
What's on your mind? Go ahead.
Well, my father-in-law was on the fair board back in the 1960s and 70s, and Ted Vaughn was the chairman of the fair board at that time. But my father-in-law told me that that through the years that the fair, as it was out there close to Nolensville Road, that part of the city had more than paid for its break-even point. I mean, in fact, it was making money for the city in the shape and form of which it was then designed, and so my personal opinion is I don't think we need soccer here. I don't think the city will overall. I don't think the city overall will support it, and we already have baseball. We have football. Sometimes it's been, a rather colored situation with the football team, with the personnel that
Okay, so you're
play on the team.
Okay, you're opposed to it.
And I'm opposed to it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, he's saying. What did he say at the beginning there? They've made their money.
The
back?
fairgrounds has made a profit. In fact, the fairgrounds, and I have to agree, the fairground is the only property owned by metropolitan government that has consistently made a profit. In fact, over 95 of 110 years, the fairgrounds has made a profit. There's not another property owned by the city. It's the most visited single property owned by the metropolitan government.
Could it do better? Could it do better? Is there a way? I mean, you put a soccer stadium out there. Could it do better?
We don't know. The fact is, they'd have to sell out the soccer stadium 30-something times in order to bring in the same number of folks that already come to the fairgrounds last year.
Okay. All right. Did you want to add anything?
Well, only what the gentleman talked about is there's something called sports dollars out there, and the question is, can Nashville really handle another sports team? No way to know that. Sure, the promoters are going to say absolutely, But we do have 3 professional franchises. Can we get a 4th one? I've seen the ticket pricing schedules for this MLS, and it's very expensive. And I wonder how many people are going to have the money to pay. Soccer is a more universally spread sport, but it's not as well funded as football. What if we have a stadium out there and only 4,000 or 5,000 people are coming to each game? Then that stadium starts losing money, and the taxpayers have to pick up the bill. And I know they promise they'll pick up the bill. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But we have a money-losing project. Why not let them play in the Nissan Stadium, build up a fan base, build up a popular support in the community, and then make a decision? If we knew how many people were coming to soccer, nobody knows. I mean, I can tell you 5 people are coming, and then National Soccer Hall will tell you 10,000 people. Let's see some performance, and if they're bringing in 10,000 people a game, then let's build a stadium for 10 or 15,000 people, and you be smart. Don't just throw $500 million at a project hoping 30,000 people will show up.
Okay, let's go to Loretta. Hello, Loretta. Are you there, Loretta?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Okay. Yes, I'm calling because I just have a question about why the Wilf family is involved in this. We don't hear much about them, but they've been around, and they already are in a 20-plus something year lawsuit because of their shady business practices. And, why do we need these people here to benefit when, they're just already shady, and we know that. We don't need them.
Okay, I don't know what's that. All right, what family?
Jim,
I don't know if I want to talk too much, but all right. Certainly, the Ingram is involved. What is she talking about there?
So one of the least discussed aspects of this whole deal is that this is all being driven by a group called the Wilf family out of Minneapolis. That they own the Rams, and they wanted a soccer franchise, and they got turned down by MLS. And one of the Wilf brothers is on the board of trustees at Vanderbilt. He sits next to John Ingram, and they start talking. The next thing you know, we believe that they brought John Ingram in to be the front man. But this Wilf family has been sued repeatedly. They've cheated business partners. There's court orders, findings, and court cases all over the country where they've been accused of racketeering and corrupt practices. They are not people we want in Nashville, and we believe that that's why you never hear their names, that they're using John Ingram as a front man. As someone who's read all of the underlying documents and things, I can tell you that there's a really good chance that John Ingram won't be part of this investment group in 3 or 5 years. He's just a front man. I'm sorry to say that. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but this is being controlled by people from out of state who have horrible reputations, who have cheated business partners, who have engaged in aggressive litigation tactics and been slammed by judges. We don't want those people in Nashville, and that's why you never hear their names. They never show up, they never come in, but they are the money and the force behind this, and we don't need those people in Nashville.
I would just say, do your own investigation on the Wilf family.
All right.
Google search them. You'll find a lot of good stuff.
Okay, all right, we have to take a break. We have a lot of calls, so hold on the line, and we'll get to your call. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.
Well, I'm glad we got a lot of